Hey guys, it's Mosh Stables here, and today I am doing my first ever Q&A. I know this looks like a lot. I got 25 questions from various sides of the platforms I posted on. Most of them were all like direct messages or replies to my stories. So yeah, I'm doing a Q&A today celebrating 300 followers on Instagram. Thank you all very, very much who are following and subscribing. Usually I don't say anything about, oh, follow, subscribe, like, anything like that. I just like hearing your feedback. It's not to boost my channel or my platforms. I just like knowing what other people like to see because I love watching other people's videos and stuff like that, so it's not necessarily all about being big. I just love sharing, and I like sharing what you guys like to see. So yeah, without further rambling, we are going to jump right on in with my very first Q&A. And my first question, all these are going to be anonymous, by the way, just in case. So the first question is, how long have I been collecting? I have been collecting since September 2011. And I think like a few questions down is going to be my first model, so I'll sort of answer that 2-for-1 special, if you will. My very first models, I'll throw pictures up here, of course, was the 4-piece Saddle Club set, stablemates, and then I also got the Dapple Gray Pinto Morgan Stallion and the Black Low Scratching full set. My very first Briars was from an Ace Hardware store in our area. I had received like, I think $25 from my uncle for my birthday, and then I had remembered going to Ace Hardware for something with my parents, and I saw they had a whole line of Briars up along the front wall. And I didn't even know what the Saddle Club was at the time. I didn't even know what Briar was. I just said, oh, those are cool. Those are realistic. I like those a lot. And they were the start of my carpet herd and the beginning of all this chaos you see here behind me. So if it wasn't for my uncle giving me $25 on my 11th birthday, or no. Wait, if that was 2011, then I was 10. Wow, I've been collecting since I was 10? That's insane. Sorry, I know it's basic math, but I'm terrible with math, so yeah. Roughly collecting since I was 10, and that's insane to believe here now that I am going on 24. Don't ask me where that time went. Okay, next question. Were you any good at school projects? Do your reference cards sure look like it? Thank you. No, actually. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I could hold up my own grades decently well, but school projects weren't my forte. The school in general wasn't my forte. I struggled quite a lot. I was fortunate enough to get into classes that benefit me better, and there was just a lot of holes in my foundation that became apparent later on, which I still struggle with today. It sucks, but I'm working past it. I'm making progress. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just part of the neurospiciness that I got going on. That just, model horses is a really big interest of mine, and I put a lot of my energy into my hobbies, and I wish if I could go back in time that I put the same amount of energy into school the way that I do my model horses. Then I feel like I would have had a better time. First models, I answer that for you guys. Least favorite models to show. Oh, that is tough. As of right now, let's see, can I see anybody off the front? My G1s, I guess. The G1s that I have are a bit more modern, so I like their paint jobs, but I just feel like some of them just don't hold their own the best compared to all the modern stuff coming out. But then again, that also depends on the judge. Some judges prefer G1s a little bit more, some people more modern. Is there molds that I don't really like showing? I guess the Cannering Clydesdale molds is an odd one. He's sort of like just this big round meatball. The shrunken down Clydesdale Stallion, again, I think he's cool. His concept is cool. I just don't feel like his details transferred well over into minis, but then again, he wasn't the most detailed model to begin with. What did I know? And there's probably others too off the top of my head. I just can't think of them at the moment. But next question before we get sidetracked. Why Mosh Pit Stables? Okay, so on my Facebook page, I make an album dedicated to all my model horse stuff, and it sort of goes over, you know, exactly like what I said, how I got into the hobby, and then Mosh Pit Stables, why that? If you've been following me, or, yeah, my Instagram for any amount of time, and maybe some Facebook, I think I've announced it on Facebook a few times as well, that every single one of my models in my show string, which is over 120 strong, or maybe 110. I don't know. Every single one of them is named after my favorite songs or my favorite bands, favorite groups, whatever. Every single one of them. I have a few that do sound vaguely similar, like I have Rebel Yell inspired by Black Veil Bride's cover of Billy Idol, and then I have Rebel Yell, and then I have Rebel Angel from Volbeat, and I think there's another Rebel somewhere, or I have Black Wedding, Black Dahlia. I don't think I have Black Rose yet. I think that's a song that I've been meaning to name a model, but I just haven't yet. There's plenty of others. I have the Amity Affliction, and then I also have the Stingray Affliction. So I've been thinking about doing like a Battle of the Bands, but model horse version as something to post on my Instagram. Is that something that you'd want to see? Like, oh, which one between these two that are named similar enough do you like better, you know, and just sort of do like a bracket Battle of the Bands model horse style? Is that cringy? Probably. I still want to do it though. I'll probably just do it for myself and just do like a little random generator. I don't know. So yeah, I love music. Music is a really big part of my life. I love to sing. Don't ask me to sing for you or else your eardrums will bleed. It's very unfortunate that as much as I love music and I love singing, I was not gifted in the voice department. But that doesn't stop me giving home sold out performances to my cats though. I really liked this one. If you could go back and attend any Briar event, which one would it be? That is tough. Because as someone who's never been able to attend any Briar event, be it Briar Fest or Briar West, I've only been able to participate in Briar Fest virtually so far. Going to any Briar event and I will just be happy. But, shoot, I mean, technically the Seattle soiree didn't happen in person. That got shifted over to virtual. But if we could go back in time and the Seattle soiree could have been held in person, I definitely would have loved to go to that. Partially because I live in Tacoma, so like Seattle is a stone's throw away. I wouldn't have to travel very far, and I would have just had to save money for the models themselves. So that would have been an ideal situation should I have been able to go and it be held in person for my own convenience. But yeah, maybe, man, Brarfest has had so many themes. It's so hard to think back, but I know that one for sure, just purely for my own convenience. But the year that Briar West had Phantom Face as their celebration model, their event model, I guess is a better fitting term, that would have been really cool to attend to. Partially because I just love Phantom Face. He's beautiful. And highly obtainable for my personal collection, but should the Briar Gods shine on me, I would love to add him. How do I name my models? So that goes back to my theme of why Mosh Pit Stables. As someone who is very, I like to say neurospicy for myself, I'm not referring to anyone else, but as a neurospicy person, sometimes things for me are a little bit hard when there's no structure, no guidelines, nothing to really follow suit by. I mean, it's show names for a model horse. It's not that serious. It's just play pretend. It's fun. But I like to take fun things seriously too. And this just helps me keep my brain organized and on track if I stick to a theme. So the theme definitely helps as a good guideline. And then if you're asking about how do I name specific, like how do I come up with a specific name for a model, some of them I've literally just went on my Spotify playlist. My Spotify playlist is over 30 hours long. Over 500 songs. The same one playlist. I don't have multiple playlists. I have one playlist I listen to every single day. So some days I just, if a horse comes to me and by the time that the horse is delivered to me and I haven't picked out a name for it already, I just sort of put my Spotify list on shuffle and then I keep skipping over songs that already have been used as a name, or I just keep going until I find the right song that has the right vibe. Some of them are just incredibly on the nose, like Black Dahlia for my Black Pintalusa Troy stablemate. Who else? There's, again, Black Wedding, the black and white G1 drafter from the Stablemates Club, Jameson. Yeah, some of them, if there's color in the name and it matches with a horse, it's like, oh, okay, you know, that works. That flows. Or, let's see, the Immediate Affliction, which I named Rue, was from the blue, it was True Blue? I think it was the True Blue, which was Australian themed. So the model's name is Rue. So I named them after the Australian post-hardcore band, The Immediate Affliction. So, like, there's some thought process that goes behind it, but I try not to go too deep. I find the best names that come up for my models, I don't really think too hard about it, but some of them are just really difficult for whatever reason, then that's just when I just bust out the skip random button and I just keep going until a vibe feels right. Biggest regret in the hobby, if any? Ooh, that's another really good and deep question. I think I have a few, and most of them are just seller's remorse, if anything. The number one that jumps out to me was the Misty and Stormy Vintage Club stablemates. You all know my thoughts and feelings about vintages now, or at least vintage inspired, excuse me. But I never should have parted with Misty and Stormy, and the only reason that I did was, shoot, what happened? Oh, this was back when I had real horses. So I think I needed tack or something like that, and I don't know, something along the lines of needing funds for real horses. And then I just made a big post of my shelves, because at the time, I mean, my shelves are still small compared to many others in the hobby, but I had even smaller shelves, and I just took one big group photo, since that's where all my models were, and I just said, like, oh, sorry, that was Lilith playing in the window. She likes the paper snowflakes that are still there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I made a big group photo, and then I was like, the following models aren't for sale. And then I accidentally left out Misty and Stormy, and then they were like the only interest that anyone had. So I was like, oh, I need the money. Screw it. And I've been kicking myself ever since. Same thing for Darwin and my Garula Pinto Finn. I leased last year? Was that the beginning of this year? No, that was last year. I replaced Darwin in my collection. Wait, no. Time is an illusion. Time isn't real. Whenever I got him, but it was just recently. I finally replaced Darwin in my collection after several years. I sold him the same time as Misty and Stormy. I have yet to add them back to my collection. And there's a few others for sure. But yeah, the biggest regrets I have in the hobby, I guess, so far is just seller's remorse. But I don't think I've ever been nasty about it. I did make one mistake a little bit ago. I thought I was in a deeper hole than what I actually was. And then I communicated with a potential buyer, and they were extremely understanding of my situation, and they were so incredibly nice in understanding that my personal situation was better than I thought, and I no longer needed to do what I thought I needed to do in the moment. And for that, I really appreciate them and their understanding, because otherwise I would have sold a model that I personally never would have been able to add back to my collection. As selfish as that sounds, but you know, there's really understanding people in the hobby, and for that I don't really have remorse. I would have had remorse if I didn't try to convey my new situation, but everything's all fine and figured out. Everyone is on good and happy terms, so yeah, it was a learning curve, and there's going to be many and many of those in the hobby. Favorite and least favorite model in my collection. That is tough. that is so tough. I think maybe, shoot, let me scooch over here a little bit. Man, that is so tough. I mean, I love my stablemates more than anything, but the guy who probably has like the crown of my collection right now is Midas, who you cannot see. He's like up on the very top shelf, which is conveniently cut off. I apologize. But yeah, maybe my overall would probably be Midas, and my least favorite is, oof, off the top of my head, probably the buckskin regular run Indian pony stablemate, which I still have, but only because I need a model on that mold. So yeah, when the Palomino Tobiano Briarfest one comes out, I will be replacing her in my collection. So yeah, for now, she is my least favorite, I think. Do you own any resins? If not, are you looking for some? I own one resin, and I'm not going to go around, pull them off the shelf, and show them to you guys. I apologize. But he is the Doc resin sculpted by Alex Start and produced by, was it like WI Hold Your Horses? or Hold Your Horses WY, something like that. Yeah, he's a stablemate scale resin sliding, well, quarter horse performing the sliding stop, which I love. And we need a updated stablemate reiner, and we need a traditional reiner, mid sliding stop. I will not stop politely harassing people until we get a OF plastic mid stop reiner. I feel like that'd be really cool. Yeah, so my Doc resin, he's a Clearwear blue, which I never really would have thought that I never thought that I would get a resin, let alone a Clearwear. But he's so perfect. he's magnificent. He's everything that I want in a model horse and in my signature color. So which just worked out. Plus he was pretty affordable. If I do get any more resins, they will be stablemate scale, and hopefully they're Clearwear, just like him. If I collect resins that are going to be Clearwear resins, I do not need to get tempted into other resins. And no hate to the expensive paint jobs, the prices are well worth the work of art that you get afterwards. I'm just struggling to keep up with OF collecting. So maybe a later in life situation, but not now. Maybe that could change. Okay, so I got two questions that were very similar. My holiest grail and my top 5 grails. Right now, number 1 is probably the Skewed Dundee from Brerfest live auction last year. Duwamish, another Dundee. Shoot, let's see. Alborozo. I don't know. I feel like everybody has Alborozo as a grail at least one time in their collecting journey. Oh shoot. Is it Tempest? On the Smarty Jones mold, I think. I have no idea how I would be able to live show that one, but I would definitely want to. It seems like a very healthy challenge that I would be up for. God be willing, I can ever afford her. Shoot, who's he up? Maybe Athena. I feel like she's really pretty. I've had the privilege of only seeing one in person, and it was while I was judging at Northwest Congress. She's beautiful. She is immaculate. So, again, should I ever be in the fortunate circumstance to be able to own her, I would be over the moon. And those are just off the top of my head. There's probably some others that I would like more, but my top 2 for sure is the Skewed Dundee and Duwamish. Because Dundee's my boy. So yeah. Who is my current best show model? That's a good question. You mean like best placings, or like most placings entirely, or like just consistence? For the sake of consistency, I want to say, shoot, I'm sorry, I have to keep looking back at my collection. It's probably Rue, my stablemate. He does really well. I think it's really funny because he's just a standard dapple gray Andalusian. Everyone knows Andalusians are primarily gray. And then I put him on the show table, no documentation, because why would you need documentation for a gray horse that primarily comes in gray? He never once placed. I put documentation down of a horse in the exact or nearly identical graying stage as him, and then now ever since, I think he's nanned nearly every time. I think only one time he took a 5th, And that just, the class was massive. It was, so, I mean, him taking a 5th in a massive class, I was still really happy. But yeah, I just thought that was funny that he didn't place nothing with no documentation, but then all of a sudden I give him a card, and then he's just nanning left and right, and I think he has a few division champs as well, so I won't argue. I just thought that was funny. Hence why now almost every horse, regardless of what they look like, has some form of documentation. So it helps. if you're willing to put in the countless hours going down the rabbit holes. Midas does okay for me. I feel like I'm not sure. He does a pretty decent job, but he's still pretty iffy. He's not a reliable placer for me. My Peterstone factory custom pony, Corduroy, who you also conveniently can't see because he's up there, he also places regularly. His one and only Nan card that he has really isn't all that impressive because he was the only one in his class. I didn't know until I went over to the table and I was so excited. I was like, oh, he did it! He finally nanned! He got first place! And then my friend walked by and she was like, that's because he was the only one in his class. And I was like, oh, I won't celebrate that too loudly then. But other than that, he gets pretty consistent 4ths, which I will take a 4th place over not placing, so it's fine. My stablemate, well, back to my stablemates, probably my Skewed Red on Diesel. He is pretty reliable for me. He also nans almost every single time he goes out. I spent a lot of time on his documentation, so I'm glad that consistently pays off. I feel like, who else? Iodine, or aka Corbin from the Stablemate Club, he also consistently places really well, which I'm surprised about. I feel like I have better models than him, but I mean, I'm gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, no pun intended, but yeah. Moving on. Did Rainier consent to kisses? If you saw my posts asking for questions, then you saw the picture of me kissing one of my best friend's models, Rainier. He's another really, really big grail. So, yeah. Maybe I'd put him in number 5 instead of Athena. I think. Yeah, so, and that was his owner who asked that. I like to think that he did. If he didn't tell me otherwise, so that will be a topic for later conversation. Any models with funny stories? Well, I guess I already shared the one about Rue not placing until I gave him documentation, and then now he pretty consistently places. And who else did I talk? Oh, my Corduroy is one time nanning and the only one out of his class. Anyone else have a funny story? Maybe Kalahari. Also, way up there. Sorry, my other cat's playing with the blinds. Kalahari, I feel like he has a funny story because, I mean, I was so excited. I think that was the one year that I wasn't in the club, so I don't think I had a chance to enter for him. But one of my hobby friends who lives pretty close by, she was selected, and she collects the Django stablemate. And I had Ellington, because he was brand new at the time, and she didn't have him. So I was desperate to get Kalahari, because I love African wild dogs, painted dogs, whichever is the more correct term. And everyone knows I'm not a huge decorator person, but he was an exception because I love those dogs. And I think it was when we went to, yes, that's what it was. My grandparents took us down to the San Diego Zoo, and I got a stuffed plush of the painted dogs, and seeing them in person. They're incredible animals. They're just beautiful. So when I saw this model, I was like, if there is any one model of the wild animal series that I must have, it's him. So thankfully, she wanted Django. I wanted Kalahari. And she was like a mutual friend of mine from the gal who bought my Arabian. So they knew each other first, and I just barely saw. I saw the person who sold me Kalahari. I saw her name pop up in the hobby every once in a while, but I didn't know how big she was into it. And she collects cigars. I feel like I want to say she has like all the obtainable cigars now. I mean, of course, with the addition of the Celebration horse coming out, she's going to need him too. So yeah, that was really cool, going over, like, seeing somebody who was a mutual friend from the real horse world, but then also model horses as well. I didn't really know that she collected until I went over to her house and we did a partial trade, and then I got to see her collection, and it was beautiful. So I think that's sort of a funny story. I don't feel like anyone else really has one that jumps out to me. Or at least quite yet, I remember. We'll see. Did you ever feel ready to start live showing? No. I did not. So let's see, how did I get started? It was 2019 was when I found out about Emerald Downs Live, and clearly I didn't find out about it until like the day that the show was going on. And so I believe it was my grandma and my husband at the time, my boyfriend, we just went down to check it out. We were just like, oh my god, what is that? That sounds, well, me more than anyone, was like, oh my god, that sounds so cool. And then we just visited. Really, we just got a layout of the land and looked around. I didn't ask terribly many questions because I was just soaking it all in, and I didn't realize how much work went into it. So I was like, oh, okay, 2020, I'll try it. And then we all know what happened in 2020, and so live shows were put on pause, so I did not attend my live show until 2021. In that meantime, I did do a lot of research. I watched other people's YouTube videos, I joined a lot of Facebook groups, and for someone who has a lot of social anxiety, which I've been told many times over by people at shows that meet me in person, they're like, oh, you have social anxiety? What? And then my best friend, like the first show that we were at together, she kept coming up behind me, tapping my shoulder. She was like, oh, you're doing so well. And I just like, involuntary freak out moment. But yeah, so I did not feel ready despite the long preparations that I made to try to ensure that I would feel ready. Even now, going to shows, sometimes I still don't feel ready, but it's worth it. It all sort of melts away once you get there, and then you have too many things to do. You have too many horses to be paying attention to, classes, asking judges questions, talking to your friends, trying to remember to drink water and eat something, anything. Speaking from personal experience. So it's a lot, but I feel like it is so incredibly rewarding at the same time. So yeah, I did not feel ready. Sometimes now I still don't feel ready. Even the few times that I've judged, those times I especially did not feel ready. but it was all worth it. I have not had I have not had one bad experience at a live show yet. So, I mean, not that I want to speak that into existence, but yeah, it's something you just have to go for it. Not to sound like a cliche, nobody feels ready. If they do, what are you having? But yeah, I would say just do it. What's the worst that can happen? Really? I don't know. How many NAN qualifiers do I currently have? That is an excellent question, and I don't think I've counted how many NAN qualifiers I've individually had. That is interesting. For someone who's really bad with numbers, I like number breakdowns in my hobby, and that's not something that I've broken down before. So while I edit this, I will go through, I will count how many individual NAN winners and how many NAN cards total. So hopefully that answers your question, and I'll put it here or somewhere. What is the hardest part of showing? Ooh, that's a good question. For me personally, just staying focused. Really, it is so easy to get caught up in one little thing, and then all of a sudden you've missed a class, or all of a sudden, you see your friend that you haven't gotten a chance to talk to all day, so you want to squeeze in a few words, and then all of this, it can be chaos. It can be hectic. But yeah, so I would just say, like, staying focused and on track. For me personally, it does not help with my ADHD. I'm like a ping pong ball. But yeah, so once I just get in the zone and I mellow into it, usually it's pretty much just a straightforward process. And also just having energy for the entire day, it really does take a lot out of you. Or, again, speaking on my behalf and my behalf only, was that the last show? Yeah, it was. Coming back from Northwest Congress, I was so tired, and my back was killing me by the time that my back was hurting before we even arrived home in the car. So, I mean, definitely worth it. Well worth it. No regrets. But my husband took a picture of me as soon as I got home and I got my tubs in the apartment. I just crashed on the floor. I probably lay there for like 15-20 minutes. I was like, don't touch me. So, yeah. But that's going to be different with everybody, of course. And then I got a question about my halters. Will you open halter orders / commissions again? I have thought about it. I'm not entirely sure where I would find the time right now, actually. I mean, here I am sitting down recording. We're at 40 minutes now, nearly. But yeah, it's just, I mean, halters are they're pretty straightforward, they're pretty simple, at least the ones that I make. They're nothing crazy. So, I'm pretty sure, again, like, once I sat down and I just got in the swing of things and my muscle memory started to come back, it would definitely be a faster process. But right now, I have so many other things that I want to get finished before I start halter commissions again. I definitely want to bring that back to a more, a more reliable offering, I guess. There's a few other things that have to be aligned first until that happens, but that is something that I do want to work towards, is offering my halter commissions again. What are your other hobbies, if any? Over here, which you cannot conveniently see as well, I collect taxidermy and oddities, or just natural science specimens, I guess, natural history specimen, however you like to call it. I have everything from clean skulls to wet specimens. I have a few mummified pieces. I have trimming leftover scraps of fur. So I want to make that very clear, because it is a very touchy subject for several people, and I'm not here to swing you one way or the other. But I personally believe in, I am against hunting for sport, but I am against, if you feel like you absolutely must, using every part of the animal as much as possible so nothing goes to waste. So that's where some of the furs come into play, or even salvage roadkill, believe it or not. I have a foxtail that was, the animal itself had unfortunately passed from roadkill, but they salvaged what they could, and they made what I believe to be some very beautiful jewelry from the harder remnants, and then the softer stuff, you know, like it. I don't see anything wrong if the animal had already passed, and then just cleaning it up and making it presentable. And I like to use my specimens as a way to teach others and ignite natural curiosity and questions. So yeah, I feel like as long as it's done humanely and with the right intention and reasons, I don't have anything personally against it. Fur farms, of course, I have a huge, massive thing against, and I will not support any fur farms. And a large, very, very few things in that specific collection are purchased. Actually, a very, very good majority of my collection of, or my gathering of individuals, as I like to call them, is one of them. He's massive. His name is Pork Chop. I give them all names too, because I feel like as individuals, every individual is worthy of a name. Some people think that's weird, but Pork Chop, he was a massive 500-pound meat boar that one of my friends, I believe, he raised with the intention of eating, and then when the time came, he, in true redneck fashion, he divided up the goods between his family, his friends, his neighbors, so no edible part went to waste. And then I currently have the skull. So that was gifted to me as a graduation gift, which I feel like that has an incredible story. I know exactly where it came from. I know the intentions behind it, and it came from a meaningful person in my life. And the same person, he also gifted me a elk skull on my wedding day. I have a picture of me in a wedding dress holding up this massive elk skull from the same person. So clearly he didn't raise the elk, but same thing. It was all about resource than it was trophies. And so I have this beautiful elk skull, which those two are like my king beans, they because they're so massive. I have others that I myself has personally found, cleaned, and kept all within state regulation guidelines. Nothing that I have is illegal to keep. So yeah, I'm into that. I also collect rocks, crystals, shiny things. I have fish. Some of you might have seen that on my Instagram. I post a few stories every once in a while. I have a standard 40-gallon, and I have a longfin calico bristlenose pleco. That's the mouthful. His name is Indiana Jones. The reason for that, so he's my dream pleco. They're not incredibly rare. They're not that expensive, which I really lucked out. Other than zebra plecos, I would love to have one, but I do not have the proper setup. Maybe later in life, who knows. But yeah, so his species, he's nothing incredibly special, but to me, I was like, that's a pleco I want. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. How could I not? So I ordered him as a baby. He was only an inch and a half. Only an inch and a half. Teeny, teeny, tiny. I probably have pictures somewhere of when he first arrived. But I was so... This experience made me terrified to buy fish online, which I would have bought locally, but I couldn't find any local breeders or any local pet shops. So I did the next best thing and I ordered online, which I had ordered fish online before in the past and I had no issues. But then again, they were coming out of places closer like California and Oregon, I feel like. Best of my memory. So Indiana Jones was shipped out of Indiana. And then because it's a live fish, they cannot be in shipment ideally longer than 2 days. So you have to overnight ship your fish. And I made sure that he would be delivered on a day that I was home. I wouldn't be at work. It was summer too, so like at least it wasn't freezing cold, but I didn't want him to cook, sitting in a bag in a box in the sun. So I was home all day waiting for my little baby fish, and then he just didn't show up. And then all of a sudden the tracking updates to saying a lost parcel. I felt terrible. I felt like I had sent this poor little baby fish to die. I felt like I just, obviously that was not my intention, but I just felt so guilty that I had just ordered a baby fish for it to pass away in a dark box by itself, lost in the mail. So, but I still really wanted a calico bristlenose pleco. So I had accepted the loss at the time that I had lost my little dream baby fish. And then I swore never to buy another fish online again until I found a listing for another calico bristlenose pleco, and that was a mature male. I had specifically wanted the males because the males get the tentacles or the tendrils on their face. Hence why they're called the bristlenose, the bristles, I guess. Because they just look cooler to me. I have no intention of breeding. I just wanted a male because of the bristles. So I was like, okay. Well, I still really, really want this fish. I'm going to order this. I'm shot in the dark one last time as a Hail Mary, and I'm never going to buy fish online ever again. So then the mature one came. No big deal. He came exactly on time. He was healthy, really great seller. So I added him to the tank right away. No problems. And then like a day or two after that, so this is like a week at this point. Probably about a week, maybe a week and a few days. All of a sudden I get a box saying live fish this way up. But it was sideways. The postal carrier, they only had one job. There's stickers on every side of the box telling you which way to stand it upright. But that's a whole different problem. And I wasn't expecting to get him, but against all odds, he was alive. Little baby Indiana Jones was alive. So I decided to name him Indiana Jones after his random excursion being lost in the mail for a week, being shipped out of Indiana. So, yeah. The baby pleco is Indiana Jones, and the other pleco, the more mature one, is Short Round, which is really ironic. The baby Indiana and then big Short Round. Since then, unfortunately, Short Round has passed away because I did get him as a older and more mature fish, and then he did just show signs of stress. He would dig in the substrate versus using his caves, and I don't know. I've never had a fish with behavioral things, I guess. I did all the water tests. I did everything. I went to all the stores. I went to so many online forums, and nobody could help me out. And then one day he just passed away. So I feel really bad about that. But baby Indiana Jones, not so much a baby anymore. He's doing great. He's big, and he did turn out to be a male. So, I mean, some sort of win. So yeah, right, and I used to breed mollies, which isn't the hardest thing to do. Literally, you just have fish, add water, plants, filter, and you have babies. But that, I don't think I want to do that anymore. I used to have a breeding program with an agenda, and it's just not working out, and I don't necessarily think it's the best fit for me. So right now I have a king betta named Sammy the Salmon. Let me know if you know what that's from, if anyone gets that reference. I have 2 Chinese algae eaters, which were, I wanted Siamese algae eaters, and it's just a classic case of mistaken identity. It happens all the time with these guys, so I do have plans to humanely either rehome the Chinese algae eaters or take them, see if I can go to a fish store and they will I can surrender them and then instead get Siamese algae eaters. Of course, I have Indiana Jones, and then I have several species of snails. I have Malaysian trumpets, I have a pink lady nearite, I have horned, are they called horned or thorned nearites? Whichever one of the two it is, and then I have like a standard olive stripe nearite, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's really it. I don't think I have many other hobbies that I really partake in. And of course the briars, the model horses, that takes up most of it. How involved is your partner in the hobby? Not very, but bless his heart, he puts up with so much. A lot of my ramblings, a lot of me showing him random pictures of model horses, and he's just like, okay, that's nice. He's not dismissive, it's just hard for him to jump on board, which is totally fine. But, exciting news, Emerald Downs this year, he's going to help me out, showing a little bit, because I am bringing my largest show string yet, but at this time, I'm still making adjustments, so we will see if it stays this big or if it gets bigger. But he does plan on helping me out at Emerald Downs. He has attended, I think, almost every other show that I've been to except for Northwest Congress. He has been there with me to all of them. So he's there, he's present, he's just not necessarily active. Except for coming to Emerald Downs this year. I'm gonna put him to work a little bit, and we will see how that goes. If he still feels up for it the day of. If not, no worries. We'll see. Do I currently have any real horses? I do not, which I'm really sad about that. But at the same time, at this current stage of life, it's probably in the best interest that I don't. Because if I am struggling to find time to make hobby halters, I would definitely be struggling to find the time to take care of real horses. Which, as much as I would love to, it's not realistic. But I did have 3 in the past. A lot of you guys may know this tidbit already, but my very first horse, I got him for free. Quartz Spooky Bar. He was a registered American paint, and just last year did I find out that his bloodlines went back to Count Fleet and Man o' War. So I feel like that was very special, and unfortunately I found out after his passing. That happened 7 years ago. 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, December 2017. That was really hard for me. That was my first major loss in life. I don't mean to sound insensitive when I say this, just for lack of better wording. I feel fortunate's not the right word. I just haven't lost a person that close to me yet. So far my biggest losses like that in life they've been my pets. They've been my fur babies. And Spooks was the very first one. He still tugs on my heartstrings all the time. I'm never not thinking about him. So, yeah, and part of the reason why I do a lot of the Model Horse Live shows was I had always wanted to do shows with Spooks. Always wanted to. And unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity. And so now I just sort of, like, go forward in my model horses, sort of like what I would if I had real horses. So it's sort of a placeholder for me, I guess. The second horse that I had, Sakur Al Khalifa, aka Zeus. I'm probably still pronouncing his Arabic name wrong. But yeah, he was a straight Egyptian Arabian. He was bred for pleasure seat riding, so he was an English boy that I turned Western. As if I got him Greenbroke as a 5-year-old, my second horse. And again, I think our bill of sale was only $1. Not that he was a bad horse, they needed room for other horses. And I was like, I had known, well, when I got Spooks, he was already like retired. And then I briefly brought him out of semi-retirement until he passed. So Zeus and Spooks, there was a little bit of overlap having them together for a few months, I believe, or maybe a year. So I had Zeus with the intention of not replacing Spooks, but just something to work towards later. And then I was not, because when did I get Zeus? How young was I? I was young. I was really young, and it was, I won't be afraid to say it. It was as cool as Zeus was, and I absolutely adored and I loved him, we weren't a good fit. I was not the calm, confident, established trainer that Zeus needed, and he has a lot of self-confidence issues. He's not a very self-confident horse. So, I mean, he's better now that he's 12, going on 13. He's 13 years now. I got him when he was 5. Wow. That's insane to think about. So, yeah. Zeus and I, as much as I loved him, I still love him, but we all joke he is a paranoid schizophrenic. And he's better suited for somebody else, and he is a better horse for it. I just, unfortunately, was not the person to bring out the best in him, and he was not the horse to bring out the best rider in me, so it was mutual. My third horse and my last horse, Miss Sassy Peaches, aka Miss Sassy, she's believed to be like 15 or 18, a grade stock quarter mare. I loved her to pieces. She was great. I got her as a beginner safe horse to instill some of my confidence that I was shifted from Zeus. Oh, hi, Lilith. How nice of you to make a guest appearance. So yeah, I got Sassy to instill my confidence in myself again, and then my own personal reasons I let her down. So there was just a lot of things that went into it, and she is now at Lilith. She is now at a dude ranch, living her best life as a children's trail horse, which I know she's loving. She literally eats out of a gold feed pan. Hello. She's just a wiggle butt right now. Yes, you can stay there. So yeah, she loved kids. While I did not have her the longest, I think between the 3 horses that I had, I probably had her the shortest amount of time. She absolutely loved kids. Absolutely loved kids. She was a very gentle horse, but you could see she would just switch into a whole nother gear of gentle, and her eyes would just light up. It was so precious to watch. So I know, being a children's trail horse, she's loving life. And she has sort of had like one pace too. When I first got her, she didn't have holes in her training. She was just a opinionated red mare. She wasn't a nasty red mare, but she did have the stereotypical, like, if you're not really going to make me do this, then why would I want to do it? Type attitude, type thing. So I had a lot of issues trying to pick up her feet because she wanted to see if I would actually make her do the work. So same thing with riding her the first few times, was I could barely even get her to walk in a straight line in a pasture, because I did not have the luxury of having any access to a truck trailer arena. I grew up learning to ride trail rides, like, so for me, riding in a pasture just felt like a trail ride, and it was just a bit more natural, and I feel like I could gauge her better anyways. And she would just take a few steps and then stop and stand there, and then I couldn't get her to move forward. She was really dead in the sides for heel pressure to try going forward, so I found out that she was a bit more voice cued, which for me was a learning curve, because all the other horses I rode in the past relied very heavily on more bodily aids. So there was a lot of learning curves, and I did try to sell her the same way that I tried to sell Zeus. I wanted to try to find her that perfect home. But at the time when I was riding, I was working at a reining barn, and I asked my boss, I was like, man, what do I do? I'm just sort of stuck between this rock and a hard place. And she was a kind of horse, she got fat off of air. She was, now looking back at pictures, I wish that I hadn't worried about it so much. I just felt guilt, because I felt like she was just fat all the time. Sometimes she was, but then there was times looking back that I was like, she's just large. She just has a large build, and it made me feel like a terrible owner, thinking that my horse is fat all the time, and I didn't want people coming for me thinking, laminitis, and so many other things. So with the insight of my boss at the time, she helped me make the decision that it would be best just to just take the band-aid off, and because I had posted her for quite some time, no interest, no one wanted to even come out and visit her and try her or anything, so I took her through the sales pavilion, which I'm not proud about, and that is one of my deepest regrets in the real horse world. So yeah, I'm sorry that turned into a sad sap novel, but no, I do not have any real horses now. I'm still friends with the girl who bought my Arabian Zeus, so I get pictures of him, I get updates of him through her Facebook, and she has been very gracious for me to come out, and once he became a bit of a better horse, and then I became a little bit of a better person and settled my confidence a little bit, and it's not really that he was dangerous, but he was a safer horse for me, and I was a safer person for him, if that makes sense. She let me come out and she let me ride him. Many times we've gone on several trail rides together. Even the coolest thing that I've probably ever done on horseback was she took me to Bolinder Horse Park. I never once thought that I would let alone go to Bolinder Horse Park, where the Briar Horse Checkers is from, which I think now they've sold it. I think last I saw, I think they're just transitioning their life a little bit. But yeah, I never once thought that I would be fortunate enough to go to Bolinder Horse Park, let alone go through the obstacles on Zeus. Like, he was the horse that terrified me of riding. Not that he's a bad horse, it was just a recipe for disaster. Looking back, there was so many things wrong. But as a young, dumb, and naive kid who thinks you're on top of the world until someone proves that you're not, it's a very humbling experience, which I still do have riding anxiety a little bit to this day, but that's something that I really want to get over. My life goal, I don't know when. I don't want to put a timeline on things because timelines are stressful, and when the time is right, it will happen. But one of my biggest life goals is to not only, of course, be moved into a home of our own with my husband, but also have 2 horses, because I don't come from a family of horse people. I am first generation. I mean, I have cousins. I would ride their horses, but, family situations are weird. So yeah, and that would be something every so often that I was like, I want my own horse, and no one else in my closer immediate family was interested the way that I was, and still currently am. So I would absolutely love to get 2 horses, and then not so forcibly make my husband trail ride with me again. So yeah, that's the dream, that's the goal, hopefully someday. Then on to, I think we only have a few more questions left. We have 4 more questions left. We're nearly there. Thank you for bearing with me. If you could theme an entire online web series, what would be the theme? Fish. I have Lilith. Thank you, baby. We have the Birds of a Feather series, and now we have the Wild Animals series. I want to see fish. I don't want to see fish scales, per se, because I don't really think that would look good. But, like, say a chum or dog salmon, whichever their nickname is. I feel like that could be pretty. I don't know. Those salmon, they have pretty coloring, but on a model it might look really ugly. I don't know. Maybe like some betta-inspired fish? I mean, betta-inspired fish, really? Who would have thought? No. Some betta-inspired models. One example that I know, even though he's a classic scale, is like the Arabian Stallion Malik, I think is his name. And I have seen some people have done like koi or betta looking customs on him, because I mean, he has a perfect mane and tail for it, for like the long flowy fins. So I feel like that could be really cool. Maybe it's just cool up here and not cool execution, but I feel like there's gotta be something that could work out. Do you have any scary show moments? Actually, I do. I didn't think that I did when I first saw this question and wrote it down, but actually I do. It was either my very first live show at Emerald Downs or my second year showing at Emerald Downs. And me and this other shower, I don't know who they are, and not even if I did, I wouldn't want to put them on blast. It was a very honest mistake. There was a stablemates class, I believe, probably like Spanish gated, something along the lines, because I put down the Florida Cracker Paso stablemate from the, what was it? All-American Trio set. So the dun Florida Cracker that has extensive dun striping down its back. I put that on the table. And it was the exact same mold, but it was a darker shaded buckskin. So the two side by side, while very similar, they are clearly not the same. And I think we just put them too close on the table. As I was walking by the table when the class was being pinned, I saw my horse take first. And I was so excited. I went back to the table and talking to Liam. I was like, oh, she did great. And, sorry, cat. But then I went back to the table to go collect my models. And then she was gone. And then a horse, again, very similar, not the same, was left there, and I was scared. It is a very disheartening feeling at first, before you know it is a honest, genuine mistake, because, I don't know, unfortunately not everyone in the hobby is as nice, honest, and upfront as we would all hope to be, but thankfully this case was not that, and it was just two very similar horses placed too close to each other. So for that reason, I would say another big tip for live showing, I guess, is if you have the table space, do not put your horse too close to another that is either identical to yours or pretty identical to yours. It's something that I've just learned at shows a few times, so yeah. But I feel like, for me personally, I feel like that's my only scary moment. Just a case of temporary mistaken identity, and everything was fine afterwards. What is your current favorite band? That is an excellent question. Within the last month, I found this band called Galleons. Who was I listening to? I forgot who I listened to, who helped me find Galleons. But yeah, they are a Australian European post-hardcore band, which I'm really liking the sound of so far. They have a few albums out. Their first one came in 2018, and they just came out with one last year, so I'm very hopeful for what their sound I guess what they'll sound like and more albums coming forward. They seem to have quite a bit of gaps in the years, so I don't think I can expect a new album relatively soon. But yeah, thank you. I've already listed, I think I put 2 or 3 whole albums on my playlist already. So here in the future, when I start acquiring a few more models again, you will see a lot more horses named after Galleon songs, because they just, right now, they have my heart. And then the very last question of the day is, if you had to pick a discipline to show in forever, what would it be? Okay, so discipline, when I hear discipline, I think more real horses. So I would say Western Gaming Gymkhana, although I really, really want to learn reining. I probably would not be any good at it. But I want to sit a sliding stop and know what that feels like at least once. At least once in my life. So I feel I would like to learn reining, but if I had to compete in a discipline forever for the rest of my life, probably Western Gaming, but model horses if you mean showing divisions, OF Mini. I feel like that's pretty obvious. The OF Minis hold my heart forever. I love my OF Trad, my traditionals, but I don't know. My minis are my everything. So with that, I want to say thank you to absolutely everybody, my followers, my subscribers, the people who submitted questions for this Q&A. Thank you for taking the time and being interested. Thank you for your continuous support while I just do the random things that I do. And yeah, I thank you for taking the time to share my part of the hobby with you. And of course, I'm always super interested in learning about what your side of the hobby looks like as well. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate and I love you all. I believe my next video will be Emerald Towns in March, so stay tuned. Love you guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.